Board of Accountancy Peer Review Oversight Committee. I call this public meeting of our committee to order at 1:05 p.m. on Tuesday, November 12th. This meeting is open to the public and is being held by Zoom, and it is being recorded. Our purpose statement: the purpose of the PROC, or Public Peer Review Oversight Committee, is to provide oversight of administration of approved peer review programs in order to provide reasonable assurance that peer reviews of Oregon licensees are conducted and reported in accordance with the minimum standards for performing and reporting on peer reviews. PROC will review and submit to the board for approval peer review programs that comply with the minimum standards for performing and reporting on peer reviews. PROC will provide oversight of approved peer review programs to the board. PROC will comply with all other requirements as provided in Oregon Administrative Rule 801, Division 050. In the performance of duties of a member of committee appointed by the board, all committee members will support the mission, goals, and values of the board. Committee members will not disclose confidential information that comes to their attention during the course of carrying out their responsibilities. Requests to any committee member for copies of public information or for a public statement relating to committee or board matters will be referred to the executive director. Board and committee members are expected to attend all meetings and be prepared for the discussion by reading the agenda material prior to the meeting. Committee members are expected to participate in the individual review of applicant files as assigned, providing timely notification to the committee coordinator if a potential conflict of interest exists. Likewise, committee members must provide timely notification to the committee coordinator of any conflicts of interest in any matters to be discussed. Members of the committee, please remember to mute your microphones during the meeting to avoid unnecessary background noise, and do not use the chat room feature for any discussions. When you want to speak, you may unmute yourself and state your name prior to speaking. Should any technical issues arise, we will pause during the meeting when they are resolved. We will now take roll of all participating members and guests. For any participating guests, please identify yourself at the end. Okay, so I'll start it off. I am John Howell, member of the committee.
Here, I'll call everybody off from the top row. So starting with Andrew Barlow.
Andrew Barlow, board staff, present by Zoom and in office.
Darlene.
Present by Zoom.
Kim Conway.
Present by Zoom.
Pamela Parks.
Present by Zoom.
David.
David Sekulis, present by Zoom.
And Haley.
Haley Lyons, liaison from the board, present by Zoom.
Next we have Mary Lynn.
Present by Zoom.
And Martin.
Present by Zoom for about another 5 minutes.
Okay, and my name is Quinn Stoddard, board staff, present by Zoom. Okay, that's
We have
everybody.
one more.
Nicole Kukine, present by Zoom.
We can't tell who's in the back of your yacht, Andrew.
Okay.
All right.
Are there any guests or members of the public present by Zoom or at the office? Any others?
I don't have anybody else listed right here.
Okay, let's proceed to review and approve the draft agenda. Everybody's been presented a copy. Are there any comments or additions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll proceed with the agenda. Okay, so we did our call to order and we announced the recording. We introduced our committee members. We reviewed and adopted the agenda. So we're at the public comment section. Is there any public comment to be added to the meeting?
The board has not received any via email and no one is here in person.
Okay, so hearing none, we'll go ahead and proceed on to item 5, which is old business. Old business, first item was CPE for PROC members. This is tabled as Martin works on a broader policy. Martin, if you have any comments on that, I don't know that I have any questions. That's clear to me.
Just very briefly, I have no updates right now because the Laws and Rules Committee of the board has been focused on the very urgent work getting ready for the 2025 session. That said, we now have a meeting set up in December where I'm planning on bringing up essentially some rulemaking stuff we need to get done in the first half of next year, and kind of get the LRC to focus on that. And my commitment to the PROC is that I will present that request from the PROC in that broader context we discussed earlier, which is that it's not just about CPE credit for PROC, but essentially looking more broadly at what types of service on board committees should be considered for CPE. So it won't come as a PROC specific issue, but I will make sure that it's clear that the PROC has made the request. And so I expect, first discussions of that to occur in December.
Thank you. Thank you, Martin. Well, the one thing I might add to that is I think this arose because we do get CPE for attending the RAB meetings of the peer review. And at this point in time, my documentation is that I attended. I got one acknowledgement meeting, but I assume if the board audits my CPE, that I'll be able to get past that without an official certificate or anything. So I was thinking about that the other day, where our profession is so rules oriented and documentation oriented, but I think we're good there. So thank you, Martin. New business committee member reports. Brenda is not able to attend today, so we'll likely not get her report on the September 20th RAB meeting or the AICPA peer review board open session from November 4th, unless she submitted something to the Board of Accountancy for that. Okay.
Board has not received anything.
Okay. So we'll re-agenda those for our next meeting, which we will come to later in the agenda. Okay, so that'd be leave October 18th RAB meeting for Pamela.
Thank you. I attended the meeting, the RAB meeting. There was also a gentleman there from the AICPA who was wrapping up his review of the RAB, and he had no comments. He said everything looked like it was going great. And as we kind of have said before, I was really just impressed with the expertise that all of the RAB members, bring to the table. They're just so knowledgeable, not in just the financials, like the peer review process, but the standards, just all the standards. I'm just overwhelmed with the amount of their experience. And it got me thinking, what happens when these people are no longer serving on the RAB? So I was just curious. I actually reached out to Darlene and I was like, hey, what's your guys's process for finding new members? And I was wondering if it was something that maybe the PROC could assist with. Because I really think the health of the RAB will depend on having new members and people participating. So I didn't know what you guys thought about that.
That is one of the questions we have on renewals and other applications if people are interested in volunteering with committees. So we are tracking that data. I can reach out to Martin, see if he's fine with that and sharing contact information for people that are interested in volunteering with PROC.
Yeah, I think your point is really good, Pamela. This year we've scheduled our peer review, and I'm not able to use Harry Bowes anymore, who I love, because he's starting to limit his practice. He's unable to recruit people where he is in Pendleton, and he's just got more than he can do. And he's also my age, so he's probably on Medicare like me, and he's just kind of dealing with those things. And for people who have been around as long as me, it's kind of I have a real sense of what an asset Harry's been, in the peer review and in the ANA community here, in Oregon all these years. I mean, he's such an asset. He's such a knowledgeable person, such a great person to work with, and always willing to help. And he's retirement comes to us all, and I mean, there is life after Harry Bowes. So we're on with Rick Prue for our peer review. Fortunately, Rick was a team member on our last one, and so we're on to Rick Prue. But your point's very well taken, Pamela. It's important. One of the things that I would just sort of put out to the committee, and I've talked to a few people about it, is my term goes to October 2026. I'm not going to serve on the peer review oversight committee anymore. At that point in time, I'm too old. And I think that we do need younger CPAs that are active in ANA that are coming up that both want to serve on the PROC, as well as people that want to become peer reviewers. And I know that Darlene's predecessor at one point in time had approached me about becoming a peer reviewer, because we were doing EBP audits. At that time, I was doing Yellow Book audits. And she said, you just cover so many areas. I looked at your last peer review report, and I think you'd be a great asset. And it's like, well, it might look that way, but I just never get to it. I mean, in my life, too busy to get to it. I mean, we're a small firm. We don't have a huge practice. We're still, probably 80% tax and other services. So I said, gee, it's flattering, but I don't think I'm your guy. But there is a definite need for that. I think that the other thing is, you go to these RAB meetings, you get a real sense of the thinness of firms that can do government auditing and Yellow Book in some of the more rural areas of Oregon, and it's a concern. I mean, it is a long-term concern. I mean, we want to do everything we can through the RAB and through the PROC and through the Board of Accountancy generally to support these folks and keep them going. But, we can only do so much. So there is a real concern. But just for the committee, I think as you attend, ANA CPE, and you attend other ANA organizations here in Oregon and talk to people and say, hey, I've been serving on the PROC, and if you had any interest in that, you should reach out to the Board of Accountancy. And if you have any interest in, serving on peer review or becoming a peer reviewer, you can certainly talk to Darlene at OSCPA and get some information on that. And there is a need. I think that's what we need to tell people. There is a need for everything, both peer review and serving on board committees to keep these things going. We have a legal mandate to get it done. Okay, I think really great points though, Pamela. Thank you. Okay, so our upcoming assigned meetings for the RAB, Kim is on for November 22, which is coming right up. And then I'll be on for December 20th. And I think that, I don't know, do we have, our next meeting may be later. Do we have do we know when the 2025 RAB meetings are? Darlene, would you have that handy anywhere?
Yep, I can look it up. Hold on.
Okay.
It's usually the first Friday after the 15th of the month, because we try to not schedule them on, before the 15th.
Calendar here.
January 26th. February 23rd, March 29th.
Jan 26,
February 23rd, March 29th.
March 29th. Okay. And our next meeting, probably, we haven't approved it yet, but theoretically, our next meeting is in, come on now, John.
January 15th.
January 15th. So I'm wondering if we should assign someone to that, to the January meeting. And that was, I'm sorry, Darlene, that was January 17th?
No, January 24th.
January 24th. So I'm wondering if we should ask for a volunteer to attend the January 24th meeting, just so that we're not up against it for our next meeting, or we can wait. I mean, we're missing a couple of members from the meeting, so I mean, we've all recently, Kim, Pamela, and I are all already on the schedule. But if somebody would like to do that, that'd be great. Okay, well, if there's no volunteers, we'll table that for our January meeting to make sure we get those assignments done.
If no one else wants to take it, I can do it again.
Why don't we do that, Pamela, if you wouldn't mind? That'd be great.
Okay.
Hey, John, this is David Sekulas. The only reason I was hesitant to volunteer, I believe my term expires December 31st of 24.
Yes.
Do we have an updated board roster? Just kind of, I might be getting ahead of things here, but do we have an updated board roster with updated term expirations?
Yes, so what we had, and I can share it here, or the board can send it out, but here's the let me see if I can share my screen, and let's see here.
That's the only reason I was hesitant to volunteer to help out. I think I'd term out before then.
Yeah, which is one of the reasons I wasn't kind of pushing on that either, David. I know I saw
Okay,
that
fair.
before the meeting. And you're on your third and a half term of 3, so
Yeah.
already.
I think I'm cooked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
John.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I was a year off on my calendar. So I have different 2025 dates. I just gave you the 2024 dates. Sorry.
Oh,
So it is January 17th, Friday, January 17th. Friday, February 21st. Friday, March 21st.
so Pamela, is the 17th still okay for you?
I can do the January one if that doesn't work for you, Pamela, too. That works fine for me.
Yes, I think I am gonna be out of town that weekend. That does not work.
Okay.
I'll take that one.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Darlene.
Mm-hmm.
Back to David's question. Let me see here if I can.
I can try and share if needed.
Let me. Can everyone see this now?
Not yet.
Okay. Try not to, let's see, share any of my other. Okay, whole control is like 2 desktop. Okay. Let's see. Share. So is it coming through yet?
There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so we've got it now. Sorry, Brenda, Kim, and I are all through the fall of 26. David, we've already discussed, he's on extension through the end of 24. Pamela is through March of 26, and that's only her second term. And then Carrie's actually, I was going to mention this. I think this is a typo. Carrie's on the same schedule as Pamela, and she's through March of 26. It says March of 24 on here. So we have 2 second termers that go through March of 26, which is great. And then we've got 3 third termers that end in October of 26. So we're certainly good for 2025 and most of 2026. You know, the question is with David. And so I had a couple of questions, and I don't know the answers to these. But question number 1 is I believe the statute says that we can have 3 consecutive 2-year terms. Is that correct?
If you give me a moment, I can double check on that. I don't know that one offhand.
Yeah, I think it is. So, and I don't, you know, we're not to discuss politics, but you know, I always have to count on my fingers, you know. Term limitations are written differently depending on how the statute or how the regulation is written. You know, President Trump, even though he has non-consecutive terms, can only serve 2, which makes a lot of people in the country very happy. Um, uh, you know, Governor Kitzhaber served 2 terms, which you have a 2-term limitation for governor, but then he took a term or 2 off, and then he came back and served as governor again. So my question is, which would be valuable for us is, can our board members, you know, take a break and then come back? Because we have past board members that we might be able to re-recruit. And if we were to give David some time off, could he legitimately then serve an additional 3 terms, assuming that he was willing? I think that those are the questions. If we could get those answered at the next board meeting, kind of have a better understanding, and then figure out what we do.
All right. I'll get that.
Okay, so I'll stop that share. Go back to that. Okay.
Andrew, maybe another question for you. You had mentioned people on their renewals could indicate they were interested in proc. Do we have anyone kind of in the pipeline that had indicated that?
We receive that each year. I don't know offhand how many that would be, if it is like 15 or if it's 40 or if it's 5. Oh, Mary Lynn just checked. 45.
Yep. Going to.
Volunteer with proc.
Yep.
So
just volunteer generally for a board committee.
No, they specify which committee in general they want to volunteer with.
So I guess, do we have a process for reaching out to those people, or
It
how do we
is
follow up on that?
Martin and then usually the board chair, my understanding, will go through it and then kind of pick out who they would like as far as the size firm and whatnot they come from or the background, and then reach out to them personally. Does that sound about right, Ailey? All right.
It is kind of nice, just from my own opinion, is to have people from a variety of different sizes of firms in different areas of Oregon. You know, and David is our only a member currently from a large firm, which I think is important. I know a few people at Moss, and I've talked to them, and you know, I look like I'm inviting him to swim in cold water. You know, when I've asked them if they're interested in serving. You know, but I think that we really should definitely look at that list and go through that and consider that. It is nice to have people from a variety of perspectives on our committee and from a variety of areas. We've got pretty good coverage right now because we have you know, Eugene, Central Oregon, and Burns. We've got the coast at Seaside, and we've got a couple from the Portland area. We got 2 from Central Oregon, Bend, our chairs from Bend. So I think it's good to have the regional coverage. I think it's good to have the different sizes of firms and maybe even the different types of auditing practices. So, okay. I guess
So Andrew, is that something you can put on your list?
Yeah, I was just writing it down. I'm going to go over that one.
Okay,
Yeah, I think to follow
With
up
Martin.
on Kim's point, you know, maybe we could probably help out with that too. It doesn't have to be Brenda and Martin, you know, let's get some more people on board.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay. So we're on to our review of if there's anything else with the board meetings or the upcoming RAB meetings. We're on to review of non-consecutive non-pass firms. And we had some information in our packet that I believe is a fail that followed a pass with deficiencies. And I'm just wondering if everyone had time to review that.
It seemed like quite the fail.
Agreed.
Yeah, it was a hard fail. Yeah,
It was a pretty hard fail.
yeah, it was a hard fail. It was, you know, my impression was maybe things never worked well in the past, but they managed to get through it. And then there were some changes in personnel and it really just didn't get maintained. And things really fell apart. So yeah, if you look through these significant deficiencies, let's see. Yeah, tone at the
I
top.
thought the one redeeming factor might be the change in ownership. Maybe that would help them get going in the right direction, but otherwise it seems like they didn't take their pass with deficiencies in the prior peer review very seriously, and a lot of those same issues seem to recur even more to an extreme.
Right. I agree with you, Kim. And I think the thing that really concerned me was they pointed to the change in ownership, the timing of the audit software and the research technology, the fact that they had to rush one of the audits. But in all of those circumstances, I would expect somebody who's being prudent to have additional eyes on things, to have additional pre-issuance reviews, post-issuance reviews, engagement quality control reviews, because those risks, right? And they did none of those things.
Well, and at some point, if that was your only single audit in that period, you knew it was going to be subject to peer review. So rushing it through to get it issued so it could be reviewed seems like a horrible idea to me.
Right. I agree. The tone was very concerning.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a long involvement in EBP audits, I know that, it would be my opinion. I guess I would say that it was definitely the idea of the U.S. Department of Labor Chief Accountant's Office, as well as the AICPA, to carefully and sort of gently encourage firms that did 1 or 2 EBP audits a year to, pardon me, consider perhaps not doing them. And I think that applies even more so to single audits and yellow book auditing. I mean, it's so technical and there are so many requirements that you just really, I don't know how you can do one and do justice to it. I really don't. It's just one of those things that sort of defies my common sense anyway. So that's it. That's one of the issues there. The letter of response is, I think is typical. We're going to try harder. One of the things that I think that we look at with our oversight is the corrective action plan that the RAB gave them. They'd ask them to join the AICPA Government Audit Quality Center, which is going to impose some other conditions. It imposes its own CPE conditions for membership. And so I think that that's always a good idea, joining those audit quality centers and getting access to those resources. They specified a lot of continuing education and in very specific years. And they mandated pre-issuance review of the next single audit and the post-issuance review for the next non-governmental audit issued subsequent to peer review. And these individuals that they hire need to be approved by the board. Also, there are review engagement under SARS. So they have, I think that they really have, how can I say this? From my perspective and my history, it seems like they really had the book thrown at them. You're going to do CPE. You're going to join the Government Audit Quality Center. You're going to have engagement. You're going to have engagement review done by people that are acceptable to the peer review oversight committee. To the RAB. So this is the full book. I think. I don't know that there's anything else they can do other than a disciplinary referral to the Board of Accountancy Disciplinary Committee. I don't know that there's anything more that can be done. Just saying, get out, right? So if you're trying.
So I guess on that, a lot of those follow-ups were very similar to the pass with deficiencies. did they do the post-issuance review on that one? And so they had a good, clean audit in between these two peer review years, or what came of that post-issuance review?
Yeah, I can't, it's a really, really great question, Kim, and I can't tell from this, and having not gone to the RAB meeting, sometimes that discussion comes out in the RAB meeting, which of course we have signed a confidentiality agreement, not supposed to bring anything out of that. But I agree. I wonder too, because they're passed with deficiencies from the previous peer review did also mandate some independent review. I'm just looking and seeing what it.
Darlene, do you have any insight on that one?
I don't know who the firm is.
See here. Yeah, they had let's see, they had subject to government auditing standards. Yeah, deficiencies were in gas.
I can tell you what the RAB normally does. So if they see a post-issuance or pre-issuance review come back in, that in the opinion of whoever was doing that pre-post issuance review, if it appears that they still didn't get it right, then the RAB will usually assign another pre or post issuance review and
Okay.
perhaps more CPE. So they pretty much have to get it right in order for the corrective actions to stop.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were required under their 2021 agreement to perform post-issuance review for their next single audit engagement subsequent to the peer review. So they had one post-issuance review, but remember also that they had a pass with deficiencies. So and they were required, and I presume that they complied with that and got that done. But that was one post-issuance review, and then 2 more years pass, and there's the changing of the guard, and I think you see what you see. I don't know. I would guess that this is probably a firm in a rural area. Would be my guess. Not that that's an excuse, but just recruiting's more difficult. Are there any other comments on the review or any more feedback that we would want to give Darlene or the RAB on this consecutive non-pass firm?
I guess this is where I get a little fuzzy as to what our role is. Clearly, this firm is struggling. The RAB is giving them, a lot of things to do. They're giving them CPE, they're giving them post-issuance. They did similar corrective actions last time. That didn't seem to solve the problem. Like what are our options?
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I guess it would be as part of our oversight, Kim, I think on some level we need to know that, I mean, we believe that the RAB does all of its follow-up. Okay. I mean, that's
right.
We believe
we have no reason to believe they don't.
Yeah, there's no reason to believe that they don't. But then again, as part of our oversight, maybe we need to see some of that. And maybe that's something that we should explore, is that in fact, all of these things were done. I know the one time I had to submit a correction to the RAB for our peer review, because it was when we were still doing yellow book audits and we had some people weasel through the system without doing all their required CPE. I mean, I had to have a concrete plan, and I had to, in my next peer review, I had to submit the documentation that it was done, that the CPE was done. And in my next peer review, it was followed up on because it had been an FFC and an MFC. So it was followed up on because those are always followed up in the next peer review. And in fact, they're like, yeah, everything looks great, looks clean now. Everybody's doing that. My misunderstanding, just brings back great memories. My misunderstanding was that uncertified staff needed to have the CPE as well as certified staff. So when you're using, interns and college graduates, but you're actually using them on audit engagements, they still have to have the CPE. The same is true of EBP. They have to have the CPE even if they're not certified. So you're going, oh, well, why do non-certified people need CPE? And it's like, well, it serves two purposes. There's the regulatory requirement for the specific audit areas, and then there's licensure. And the fact that you get double duty on them, great, but it doesn't mean that just because they're not required, because a person isn't licensed, doesn't mean that they're not required for the CPE. So in any case, I know they have that follow-up and that reporting requirement and have to submit all the documentation to the RAB. And it is followed up on, and it is documented that it's all done. I know that from personal experience. And also with some friends at other firms I've talked to that have had to, clean up a few things. It's a pretty efficient and specific process with definite response timelines, and the documentation is reviewed. But I think in this case, maybe we want to actually, if there's some way that we can see that would be, I think, I agree with you, Kim. I think that would be a good part of our oversight is, in fact, did they do this? I mean, there's the bigger question of will it work? But I mean, that's beyond, I think, beyond our oversight role. I mean, hope it'll work for their sakes, or that they just do something else. So
it looks like the due dates for the corrective actions are December 31st, 2024 and March 31st, 2025. So this is all in process. There's also one
What about,
June 30th,
what about,
2025, couple things due June 30th, 2025.
what about for the last one where it was the pass with deficiencies? Did they submit the post issuance review on that one and it passed?
They would have had to.
It just seems really bizarre to identify all of these issues. They could fix it enough the following year to get through is almost identically. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense from a QC standpoint to me.
yeah. Well, I mean, this reading the fail report versus the pass with deficiencies report, I mean, things really fell apart in the ensuing 3 years. I mean, things went significantly downhill from where they were, which wasn't great, to your point.
I wonder, I wonder what the reviewers kind of opinion is, because I know, someone at the RAB was in charge of presenting it and someone reviewed it. And so I'm wondering if they really think that this firm can turn it around, or are they nervous about it too? Because maybe their professional opinion would, kind of lean us one way or another.
Just in my experience at the meetings I've been to, there was one problematic case that I listened to at the August meeting, I believe it was. And that was the one where Brenda went to the follow-up meeting in September, and I was hoping to hear just from her, what her impression was of that, because that was going to be followed up at the next RAB meeting. And that was a kind of a more curious thing. Like, it was there was a huge issue with professional judgment and adequacy of audit procedures there, and almost a difference of opinion between the peer reviewer and the quality control reviewer that then reviewed the peer reviewer's work. And I was more curious just from a professional standpoint of what had been resolved with that. But I think that, my impression has been with these things, though, that the peer reviewers are in doing this work are kind of like trying to, these firms that have fallen down, they're trying to help them get back on their feet. And so it's a very much of is there a way we can help you do that? You need to do all this stuff. But, I remember, our first review with, Harry Bowes, he's kind of like, I have a newsletter. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm kind of like, yeah, I mean, if it's specific engagement stuff, I mean, you can bill us for your time if we need to consult with you on something. And he goes, well, no, it's not that big of a deal. You just need to ask a question, or you just want to have, an opinion on something without getting down to cases. So I know that the peer reviewers that I've worked with in my career definitely have this mentality of, it's like, we take firms that have tripped and stubbed their toes, and we put them back on their feet, and we try and get them going again. And that's generally the approach. Although I think as you read the peer reviewers report, there's some really real head shaking that I see the peer reviewer doing on this one, on the fail opinion. I'm just going, yeah, this is significant. It's pervasive. It's just, things aren't working.
The PROC does have the option to direct staff to refer this to compliance.
I'm sorry, Andrew, say again.
I was saying, PROC does have the option to direct board staff to refer this to compliance.
Okay.
Results in what exactly?
PROC would refer it to compliance and then specify what areas you'd like compliance to focus on. And then I can reach out to Jeremiah to see what that process would be. See if I could get him to join the meeting quickly if you'd like.
And at this point, would it just be compliance focusing on the corrective action items that are established for 2024 and 2025?
Possibly. Just 1 moment.
The only other thing that I've seen in the past that I wonder about is, it seemed like rather than forgive me if my memory's not good, but it almost seemed like somebody was in the past was mandated to have another peer review before the end of the next 3-year cycle. And I don't know if that's something that's done. But it seems like something that's pervasive. I'm kind of with Kim on this. Something that's this pervasive almost seems like, is post-issuance review or pre-issuance review really going to be enough? And does that just assure that this one file that the outside reviewer touched got cleaned up, and then everything else is still mayhem, right? I mean, I think that's the concern I would have here with that. So,
Haley, do you have any insight as to what the board might expect on a file like this?
Not necessarily. I think that, I mean, no. No. Doesn't come through very often.
Often, right.
What's that, Andrew?
Jeremiah is working on logging in.
Oh, awesome. He'd be the one that would have to do a lot more of the heavy lifting. So that's great.
yeah, and Haley, doesn't the
Yeah.
disciplinary committee pretty much act on consumer complaints and referrals from IRS director of practice? I mean, I haven't been doing this long enough to know that if the procs ever referred anybody to the disciplinary committee, or if we even have standing to do that or should do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we can. We certainly open our own cases against licensees, or look into them when we get renewals and that type of thing. So I think they can be internally reviewed. Hey, Jeremiah.
Hello. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I just wanted to let everybody know that Jeremiah has, just for the official record, he has joined the meeting.
Yeah, so Jeremiah, we're talking a bit about some well, John's question was good from the standpoint of, before I even give you any more information, is there a reason why or why not in your mind that the PROC would or would not refer a matter to complaints? Are we allowed to do that? Are there any problems with doing that? Have we seen that before?
There's no problems with doing that. Historically, what I've seen is if a firm has like 2 fails in a row or two pass with deficiency on similar items and then a fail, or, if it shows a pattern of the same thing happening, then it's reasonable to refer it to me. That's no problem. All it would take is direction to staff to open an inquiry into the matter. I would ask that Proc consider, like if you have one pass with deficiency and a second pass with deficiency on the same thing, the firm may have already been responding to that first one. Like, look at the timing of all of it. I know that, the period between 3 different peer reviews can be pretty long, but there's not always a lot to go on in terms of getting an inquiry done.
Right.
If that firm has gone all the way through that peer review process and has responded to the report and has said that they've, done all their corrective actions, and accepted the report, then it can be easier if they would then accept it in my inquiry. Otherwise, I would basically be reperforming that peer review.
Right.
So there's some limitations to what I can do, but definitely if you see a pattern that appears egregious enough to warrant an inquiry, all it takes is directions. It would be helpful if you're referring something to compliance to pinpoint, which elements identified in these reports are of concern, so that it's not like, their whole audit practice is out of whack. Go look at that. That's pretty enormous. But if you can identify some key elements that are worth looking into, perfectly reasonable.
Thank you. Kim, did that answer your question as well?
I think so.
Great. Oh, John, you're on mute, bud. Still on mute.
Kim, to your earlier comment, it does say in the letter from the RAB to the firm, it says, although the previous peer review identified several departures from professional standards on a single audit engagement, the firm did not subsequently take sufficient measures to ensure compliance with standards in this area. Firm staff completed extensive continuing professional education on the topic of single audits, but leadership did not ensure staff implemented what they had learned. Yeah, it was kind of like, the CPE was mandated. In fact, the CPE was done. I'm with Darlene and in believing that, without having to check, that the post-issuance review or the engagement review was done on the one that they were required to do. But it's just it's obvious that the measures taken the previous time with the deficiencies opinion were not only not done, but then it got worse. So how do we want to move forward on this? Do we want to request information from the RAB about their compliance with the with the corrective action plan through March 31st, and whether they've complied? Do we want to do that and then have a further discussion, or do we want to do something now in terms of a referral? Sound like anybody's interested in? I think with the I personally would like to hear at least get some some sort of a feedback from the RAB, make an inquiry and say, hey, we'd like to be notified that this was all timely completed and done in accordance with the corrective action plan. I mean, I think as part of our oversight, we have the responsibility to do that.
I know it's limited what we can, what information we can give to this group. I think I am able to say when the corrective actions are completed. which, and they haven't been because they're not due yet.
Sure. I think what I'd like to know, Darlene, is in fact that they completed it. They completed it with the time, within the time set by the RAB, by the deadlines. You know, I don't know that they need to complete it early or anything, but if they didn't complete it by the time set by the RAB, my concern is that the Board of Accountancy has the regulatory authority to do something and the RAB does not necessarily.
That's correct. I mean, you can do, I think, whatever you're allowed within your bylaws. It's irrespective of whatever the RAB's doing. That's my understanding.
I would like to add, if it was sent to compliance at this point, but there are outstanding steps to be taken to be in compliance with what RAB is having, that I would wait until that date has passed also, like as part of my inquiry.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Jeremiah, and that's in fact what I've seen in over years of following the disciplinary committee and its investigations, is they just kind of like, well, let's wait until everybody does what they said they were going to do, and then let's do something. So, okay, well, should we mark this one then for follow-up at our meeting after March 31st?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, very good.
And then if you guys don't need anything further from me, I'm gonna hop off the call. Did you have any other questions for me?
I think we're good.
No.
No,
Okay.
thanks for joining us and for your insight. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the draft of the committee report presentation, Martin and or Brenda wanted us to look at the yellow highlights and the updates. And I read the report, just my overall, well, if my Adobe would cooperate here today. Our meeting dates that we've met, including this one, are updated in this report. I have to reopen it. Sorry. The terms needed to be updated to our earlier discussion. Those are all yellow highlighted in there that need to be updated, but I think that can be taken from the February 2024 document that was presented at our May meeting. Report date obviously needs to be updated when Brenda kind of gives it a final review and signs off. Yeah. Yeah, all the term expirations need to be updated. The narrative on which proc member or which proc members and what dates we attended AICPA peer review open session via webcast. I think Brenda did that. Then our observation of the RAB meetings needs to be updated. And then the AICPA monitoring, we don't have the AICPA monitoring report yet. I don't think OSCPA has the report yet, do they, Darlene? That just completed, right?
Yeah, we are from the last meeting for the Oversight Task Force for the is that what you're asking?
Yeah. Yeah, the AICPA peer review board oversight task force.
Yeah.
It hasn't
The
issued
last
the
meeting.
report yet.
They haven't issued the report.
Yeah, so that'll need to be updated, but Pamela observed them at her RAB meeting. They're observing. She observed the observers. So I guess the rest of the statistical information needs to be updated. And some of this was drawn from the OSCPA annual report on peer review activities for 2022. So if we have the report for 2024, we can update these. So I think that really, oh, and then we talked about the documentation support for 5 firms with consecutive non-pass peer reviews. So we'll need to update those statistics. But I think that really this is primarily waiting on just some procedural stuff from us and from the Board of Accountancy, and then waiting on the AICPA report to kind of add some of their information to ours and review that. We're not going to be able to review that report until our January 17th meeting, I don't believe. So if we could update the rest of this, specifically the things that are just Board of Accountancy and PROC, things like term expiration dates and the meetings that we've attended, that would be great. And then we can just wait for the AICPA report. Does anyone else have any thoughts or comments on this? Okay. Okay, now, Andrew, I think you're going to have to help me here with the next thing. We'll move on to the next thing, which is PROC elections. Are we supposed to elect our chair at this meeting?
I'm unsure with that. I wasn't sure if it was going to be for vice chair or chair.
Yeah, we have a vacancy at vice chair. And we've had that vacancy for a while and haven't filled it. Kill my Adobe today.
Good direction for PROC on that. May need to wait till our January meeting if we're able to.
Yeah, I didn't know that we did this at the November meeting, did the elections for the coming year. And all we do is elect a chair and then a vice chair. Those are the only 2 positions other than committee member. Sorry.
And since Brenda's not here, we should automatically reelect her, right?
Right. I mean, that's my feeling. I think she's doing a great job. So
Brenda did say that she is fine with being nominated again if that is the committee's decision. When she asked for someone to fill in today for the meeting since she was sick. So she did say that is fine if that is the committee's decision. Just throwing that out there.
okay.
And we even have it in writing.
Okay, so we have a nomination of Brenda for 2025 chair of the PROC. Do we have can we have a second? Anyone else like to serve? Should we table it to the January meeting?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a second. We have a nomination and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, committee members, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's passed unanimously. Brenda is the 2025 chair of the PROC. We have a vice chair position that's vacant. We've left that vacant, not for any particular reason. I think, like the vice president of the United States, the vice chair of our committee is supposed to do my job that I'm doing today. I don't know that they have a lot of other responsibilities. Would anyone like to serve as the vice chair? Should we go ahead and fill that position now? Okay. Carrie isn't here to ask today if she'd be interested. I think that at this point in time, Brenda, needing to have a meeting off points out that we probably should have a vice chair, although procedurally, I don't think there's any problem with a member just taking it up. So I'm fine with leaving it vacant unless the other members of the committee feel differently at this point in time. Or there's someone that would be willing to serve. Okay, well, I think that's, given no comment on that, we'll table that for the next meeting. Okay, that should take care of elections. Set our 2025 meeting schedule. I think we were given a draft. Were we not given a draft?
And I'm going to try and share my screen real quick. I do not see where it's at on Zoom.
Okay. So this will be 4 meetings, Wednesday, January 15th. Which should be the meeting at which we would address vice chair and then also our annual report, and hopefully we'll have the AICPA oversight report by that point in time. Then Tuesday, May 6th, Tuesday, August 19th, and Tuesday, November 4th. That seems all good to me.
John, are you talking about like the big oversight report? I mean, there's so many oversights, and I think I'm getting them confused.
Yeah, I was talking about the AICPA oversight report.
Of the whole year, right? Not just the one meeting, because we did have the last October RAB meeting was observed by the guy from the oversight task force, but that was just that particular RAB meeting. If you're talking about where they come in every other year and look at the entire year, that one will not be coming because we did not, they're stretching it to every 3 years. So
Okay.
we were exempt. We were one of the AEs that we were able to, they kicked us to year 3. So we didn't get observed this year.
So there's going to be
so there won't be a report like there was back in 22, I think. So 22 and 24. It should have been 24, but it's been moved to 2025.
Got it.
So next year in the fall, I'll have someone from the AICPA Oversight Task Force come in and look at our whole year, and they will issue a report early in 2026.
Okay. So next day. Okay. Thank you, Darlene. That's very helpful. So in terms of our report, we just need to modify this some because we're going to have to leave the 22 information in there from their actual formal report. But we did review there were ongoing monitoring activities at the October 2024 RAB meeting. And then I think we just need to have a statement in here that it's now on a 3-year rotating basis, and completion of the next review would be expected to be in January of 2026.
Yeah, whatever the date is on the other one. They come in the fall, so it does take them a while because it has to work through their whole oversight task force process.
Yeah. Well, and I smiled to myself, because this is just like any other, accountant's report. And it was, the report was dated October 21, 2022, but I'm sure that's not when OSCPA got it. I probably didn't get it in October. That's probably when they completed their oversight and observation.
Yeah, because he was here in October, so.
Yeah, well, we would say they completed field work on that date, and then OSCPA, OSCPA and the RAB got the report at some point in January of 2023. So, okay, that makes sense. So I think that's the updates we need here is the AICPA now on a 3-year, and then we need to talk about that we did review ongoing monitoring activities. At the October RAB meeting, 2024. Okay, thank you. I think that'll make this a lot simpler. So we can probably get this pretty cleaned up for Brenda and Martin then. So I'll go ahead and append these comments to this draft of the report. Does anybody else have anything that they'd like to put in there or that needs to be updated other than yellow highlighted items? Okay. So I'll take the responsibility of doing that as a follow-up email to them, and just with our committee's comments on that and with the additional information that Darlene shared. Okay, great. One thing kind of sort of off the list. Okay, 2025 meeting schedule, that's done. Tabled and upcoming agenda items. I think we already talked, Martin already spoke about the CPE.
Question. Does the 2025 meeting schedule need to be voted on or approved or just reviewed?
Andrew, I think we can go ahead and make we can go ahead and entertain a motion and a second to formally approve that at this meeting, if that's helpful.
Just as a note, not that it matters, but I won't be at the May 6th meeting. We have our annual strategic leadership board meeting down at the coast for the society.
Andrew, how set in stone are those meetings? Can we change that date?
Yeah, this would be the time to do it. They're all the same as this prior year, just within a day or two based on the calendar. So now would be the time to change them if needed.
I mean, I think Darlene offers us very valuable insights. So I think since we know, 5 months, 6 months in advance, we might as well just move that one now.
The May 6th.
Yep.
Get my calendar up here. It's not helpful.
You could do the following Tuesday, May 13th.
Okay.
Or later that week. If we didn't want to have it on Tuesday.
I'm open all of that next week.
13th works for me.
Me too.
Great. Let's go with the 13th.
So we have January 15th now, May 13th. What was the August date?
August 19th.
August 19th.
And November 4th.
Okay. January 15th is a very minor tax deadline. I don't know if anybody's plagued by that. I'm not. Okay. So can we get a motion then to approve these dates of 2025 dates of January 15th, May 13th, August 19th, and November 4th for our meetings, for our 2025 meetings?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we got a motion from Pamela. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Kim seconded it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passed unanimously. Okay. On to our tabled upcoming agenda items. Consecutive non-pass firm presented at the November 2023 meeting. There was a decision in the May meeting to revisit after they've completed their action items assigned by the RAB. So now we kind of have two of those on the agenda. Expect to add this item to the agenda for January 2025. So we'll have that one, that consecutive non-pass added to our agenda for November 2025. And then maybe we can speak to more about what the PROC ought to do as far as referrals to the board for further investigation at that one. So we have, let's see, it was November 23. This is consecutive non-pass. November 2023 presented. That's going to be at January 25. And then we have our single audit non-pass. Well, it's more than the single audit. And that was presented at the November 2024 meeting. And we'll want to, they will have completed their action, follow-up action items before our May 13th meeting. So we'll calendar that for the May 13th, 2025 PROC meeting. Okay. Okay. I guess we have the annual report to the Board of Accountancy. Content, prior year content was deemed acceptable by the committee. I don't think that there is any change in that. I think that we have the information probably from our minutes as to what RAB meetings and AICPA meetings were attended. Timing draft in November, we've done that. Final at the January PROC meeting for approval of submission to the board. So we'll go ahead and keep to that. And then I'll, like I say, I'll submit the committee's comments I'll send that off to Brenda and Martin as follow-up from this meeting. And that will be that. Okay, any other announcements? Announcements or things for interest for the board. I was going to tell you, I was kind of amused. I changed my address with the Board of Accountancy quite a while ago, and I don't know that it's come up on the licensee lookup. I'll have to check that. And then we just changed the firm address and checked to change everybody's address on that. But that was just recently filed. But moving, this is the, let's see, trying to think back now. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my 4th time that I've moved my CPA firm's office in my career, and it is my last. I'm never doing it again. It was fine, but it's so much work, and it's just. And then all the address changes that you need to do with state of Oregon, it's just and it's just incredible. But anyway, that's my joy for this fall. Is we did move. We're happier where we are. The lease rate is considerably less than Cruisewood's corporate park in Lake Oswego. That has now become the most expensive office real estate in the state of Oregon. And I can vouch for that. So any other announcements?
Can I just get a clarification of who the RAB or who the PROC observer is going to be for the January RAB? Was that you, Kim?
That was Kim. Okay. Yeah, that was originally it was Pamela, but she had when the date got corrected, then she had a conflict with that. So it's Kim.
Okay.
Will you
Thank you.
just send me that invite, or you'll pass my information along, or do I need to email
Right.
someone?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass it along to Jennifer, so
Perfect,
she'll-
thank you.
she'll reach out when the packet's ready to come out.
And then the only other thing before we adjourn is we've asked about committee members. David is expiring before our next meeting, so I don't know. I mean, you technically don't have to come to the next meeting, David, but you've been our long-term continuity on the board. So I don't know. I think I'll email my questions to Martin and CC Brenda about what we can do about swinging back if you'd be willing to serve again after any kind of hiatus or anything like that, and then or if they can talk you into another extension and if that's allowed. So it's whatever you're willing to do and whatever they're willing to do. I'll take myself out of it, other than just to recognize I certainly appreciate your long service and the continuity you brought us as we kind of got the board going again. It's been really helpful having you here. So
Yeah, I'd be happy to hear additional information on that, John, and then we can kind of make decisions from there, or I'd be happy to make other recommendations for folks to the committee as well. But always appreciate working with you all.
okay, well, thank you again for your service on this committee, David. It's appreciated. Okay, well, I guess if we don't have any other announcements, can we go ahead and have a motion for adjournment? I'll move
motion.
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adjourn, so the meeting's adjourned at 2:21 p.m. November 12th. Thank you all for your work. Have happy holidays and try and enjoy your time off before the next busy season.
Take care, everyone.